When I was very much asleep at the wheel called my life, I used to have all sorts of evidence for why my life wasn't working out the way I wanted it to. I believed in things like Murphy's Law. You know that Murphy's Law, that bad things happen in threes, and boy, did they. Whatever that I believed to be true showed up everywhere in my life. Work, personal, you name it. When I got tired of experiencing the quote unquote bad stuff in my life, I had to step back and say, okay, what is really going on here? Is the whole world against me in some shape or form? Why were such bad things constantly happening to me? But I had to really take a step back, and that took a long, long time. Well, this is what I want to share with you today. Welcome to the Monday Message. My name is Francis. So we have what we call a bit of a reptilian brain. And so our reptilian brains are wired for negative biases. A long time ago, our survival was dependent on life or death. I mean, it's not so much now in our modern times, but really that's how our human brains have developed over centuries, thousands of years. And so this was a form of protection when we needed to watch out for, saber-toothed tigers. And so our brains really evolved to react strongly to negative stimuli. This negativity bias was actually coined by two psychologists. You could look this up. Paul Rosen and Edward Roisman in 2001. Bad feelings tend to feel stronger than good feelings. And this is for many of us. This is why we often go throughout the day not really noticing the subtle moments of the good stuff or those feel-good moments. We can't see them, especially when our brains have been wired for negative biases and we're constantly looking for evidence that supports negative belief systems. When we focus on negative things long enough, it literally reshapes our perceptions to only see that. This then materializes into some of our worst fears and nightmares, and it brings them into its fullest existence. But remember, this could go either way. It could be positive or negative. It doesn't matter. We will always find the evidence for what we choose to believe. And I learned this the hard way, y'all, like 20, 30 some years trying to figure out my life. Trying to figure out why all this negativity and drama consumed my life. But if that is the part of our brain that is magnified, then that is what turns into our quote unquote reality. But something about reality that's interesting. Know that reality is the result of human subjectivity. I'll say it again. Reality is the result of human subjectivity. It's one person's truth over another person's truth. And I say that if you go and ask somebody a moral question, there's going to be so many different opinions or subjective truths on what is right and what is wrong. Because reality is so subjective, our conscious thoughts are interacting with energetic waveforms. And that's a result of us being made from energy. We are balls of energy. And so that energy affects me. It affects you, even if we're not in the same room. Think about it. You're in a great mood. Somebody walks in, they're in a pissy mood. And then now you're in a pissy mood. Their energy has ultimately rubbed off on you. You could watch something on TV in Texas or in the other part of the country, and you'll still feel or absorb some of that energy, whether it's positive or negative. So if we are aware that our energies dictate the circumstances of our lives down to our moods, then focusing on the negative circumstances only does what? It brings more negative energy, situations and people. Some of you might be saying, Francis, my life is in legit shambles. Like stuff's real, okay? And, your life might not be where you want it to be. And I get that. I'm not denying that to be the case because that's your experience. That's true for you. And I'm not here to convince you otherwise because life might be lifing. It's very challenging to sort of shift that low vibrational frequency to an energy that serves you better, that feels better for you. Abraham Hicks has this thing that he coined as the emotional guidance scale. It's the idea that we can't go from, let's say, a depressed state of being to being really excited about our lives. This is why people have a hard time with law of attraction because they're like, it doesn't make sense. Well, yeah, especially you can't jump from an extremely low vibrational place to a very high vibrational place. You sort of have to work your way up, but we can move on that scale. The question is, can we go from feeling depressed to angry? At least anger stirs up something inside of us that depression does not. And we can work with an emotion like that. The real focus is to shift the energy bit by bit a little bit at a time, in conjunction with shifting our belief systems. I just want us to be very mindful about the energy that is going out, because that energy is coming back to us sometimes tenfold. For instance, if I believe that the world is mistrustful, I will continue to meet people who prove that to be true. And so my negative belief systems will literally construct a life that makes me incredibly unhappy, because I'm spending so much more energy constantly finding the evidence for that belief. And since we're wired to focus on the negatives, this means, especially in the beginning, when you really want to counter this and change this, we're going to have to work a little bit harder in the very beginning, which means we'll have to work overtime to restructure those negative belief systems in my individually constructed reality to find the positives. All this means is that I'm going to be very intentional. I'm going to be intentional with my effort to notice them. It could be like, wow, someone said thank you today. Somebody held the door for me. Oh, I got to take a bubble bath today, which I never usually get to savor and enjoy. It could be that small. We tend to pass by the seemingly small things that really have powerful impact on shifting how we feel in the present moment. So in general, most of us are spending a lot of energy constructing the worst for ourselves, the worst possible circumstances, the worst possible scenario. And I'd love to see us use all of that energy to construct the best for our lives. Oh, to see how that energy multiplies would be just magnificent. And it's really through that and those subtle changes that life becomes absolutely beautiful. And so the way that we've learned, plus being a little bit wired, to find the evidence for negative stuff, we can actually unlearn them as well. It just takes a little bit of practice and a little bit more intention and effort on our parts to do so. Thank you for watching the Monday Message. I hope that there were some nuggets that you took away from this episode. Definitely like, subscribe, share it with somebody that you're thinking about that really needs to hear this. And I look forward to seeing you on the other side of change.